No, I meant what I said. No more decks from small Japanese events. But what about decks from small French events? Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today Pat gave me a dealer's choice donation deck list, so I had to find something spicy, and today we are going to be making some squirrels, and we're going to cast a lot of spells, hopefully on turn 1 or turn 2. And the primary thing that we're going to use to fuel our nonsense today is Glimpse of Nature, which you may have seen in some Legacy Elves decks, or in some decks that we refer to as Cheerios. But Mr. Phil, why do they call them Cheerios? Great question, Timmy. They call them Cheerios because they're bad at naming Legacy decks, but in addition to that, it's also because zero-cost artifacts have a symbol that kind of looks like a Cheerio. And there was an era of Legacy where everyone decided to name decks after breakfast foods, rather than just have sensible, descriptive names that are helpful to people. So we're going to try to cast a Glimpse of Nature, make a bunch of card draws with our zero-cost creatures, and then tap a Gaia's Cradle for a bunch of mana. We can go a couple of different directions from here in terms of actually going and winning the game. We can do the aforementioned Chatterstorm, which also will make Gaia's Cradle just insanely large the following turn. We can play a Thrasta Tempest Roar, which usually will be 2 mana in this deck as sort of a thing that can clock our opponent and get them dead in 3 turns while dealing some damage right now. Or we can use our creatures with Convoke to kind of tap them for mana so that we can cast an Ancient Imperiosaur, which has Ward and effectively will be an 8/8 Trampler that's a little hard to deal with. So at the end of the day, we are a mono green Storm deck list here, and let's take a look at the rest of the supporting cast. Now, today's video is brought to you by Moxfield.com and Cool Stuff Inc. Remember, if you end up wanting to buy any of these cards or any others, promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% at Cool Stuff Inc. So we have a whole bunch of zero-cost creatures. Their particular text doesn't really matter. Sometimes they might block something. We have a little bit of mana that we can go and draw. We have Once Upon a Time, which traditionally speaking is going to help us find our Gaia's Cradle so that we can go silly here. But we don't actually have that many mana sources at the end of the day. And that's most of the deck, other than Allosaurus Shepherd, which is primarily there for the counterspell matchups or maybe a Chalice of the Void matchup so that our stuff doesn't get countered. The sideboard is incredibly focused. It knows what it's trying to fight. We're going to fight against Graveyard, we're going to fight against opposing discard or counterspells, and we're going to fight against artifacts. Other than that, we have one kind of big beefy boy that we can board in when we need an uncounterable threat for maybe a control matchup of some kind. But generally speaking, this is what we're here to do. We are mono green Storm trying to do something ridiculous. But unlike many of these other builds, we kind of need fewer resources to continue the combo. A lot of times with these like Cheerios decks, be they mono green or green blue or 3 or more colors, a lot of times you end up trying to draw most of your deck for, or all of your deck for a Thassa's Oracle kill, or you try to get a Storm count really, really high, or say a Grape Shot or a Tendrils of Agony kill. Whereas a lot of times this deck is just going to try to get like maybe a turn 1 8/8 with a couple other things in play, and that's going to be good enough, right? Or we have our own version of Empty the Warrens at 2 mana. Let's see how this does. It should be fun, but the matches will probably be really swingy in one direction or the other. Let's battle. All right, 2 things real quick before we get started. Number 1, my round 1 opponent no-showed their match and just conceded the entire match. Number 2, I recommend skipping to what is labeled as round 3 if you want to see this deck start to pop off. The first match is rough. Okay, what are we looking at here? Probably a keep and go for it on turn 2, I think. We'll see what happens with the Once Upon a Time. I think I want to be able to use Gaia's Cradle for mana. I can potentially go for it on turn 1. Another Cradle. The first thing I do no matter what is cast Once Upon a Time, and I think I'm going to allow my opponent to daze this if they want. With a Spirit Guide, I could go for it here. I think I'd rather wait and do things on turn 2, though. Let's go Osage into the uncounterable Allosaurus Shepherd. And then next turn I go Glimpse, Bam Bam, and start going off from there. This is a really promising start. I think I do a double Gaia's Cradle thing next turn, rather than try to do something a little anemic this turn. I didn't really expect to be waiting with this deck, but here we are. See if my opponent has like red for a Lightning Bolt, black for a Snuff Out. Witherbloom command. Oh, that's rough here. This was supposed to be my starting mana for my shenanigans. That's my third Once Upon a Time. That's not great. I can't cast a Glimpse right now unless I play out a creature ahead of time. I think I'm supposed to wait. My opponent has Stifle in their deck. That's good to know about. Yeah, we've had a couple of unfortunate pieces of interaction here. We're dead? We're basically dead. That keeps me from drawing cards. So if I cast Ornithopter and Memnite, its cost is reduced by 6, meaning it still costs 6, which I don't quite have. I'm close. I'll be discarding a Once Upon a Time here. Oh shit! I forgot about the Lotus Petal. Could have reduced the cost by 3, 6, 9, and then used Petal 2, Lotus Petal 3. Okay. That was an error on my end. I guess I'm happy to see my opponent tapping Wasteland. Yeah, I should have gone for Thrasta last turn. So, cast 1. Cast 2. This currently costs 6. It is about to cost 3. Playing Forest should be fine then. I'm still playing around a Daze in that case. A Force of Will still gets me here, though. The Force of Will still gets me here. My Cradle will eat a Wasteland, which is why I didn't want to play out the second Cradle. This Uro is going to do some serious work. Yep. Not a fan of what's happening here. We're kind of a glass cannon deck in that we get to try to do a thing. If it doesn't work, we're not great. I will pick this up, and we can maybe do that next turn. I mean, I can definitely do it next turn, right? So 2 from Gaia's Cradle, 2 from Convoke, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I can definitely cast this next turn. It doesn't have hate. Okay, now I can't. I guess I play this out for another turn or two, but I kind of expect that I'm dead. I need to keep this body around for things like Cradle and Convoke. Now my opponent just has 10 points of damage in play. I think I play this out, pass the turn, and then see if I can do something cool. Following turn, it's so tough. Like, my opponent just has 10 power in play and something that keeps me from using my deck's engine. Oh, that is another thing we're going to have to deal with that snipes my small creatures. And this is going to just fully brick my glimpses as well. We have been hard countered here. I don't expect to win this match. Armorgeist will end up being bigger than a lot of the green creatures sometimes too. I don't really know if I win if I board out Glimpse. But man, it is bad against what my opponent is doing here. I think I'm going to sub 2 of these for 2 Thruns since they're uncounterable. I'm kind of looking at this over some copies of Once Upon a Time, but I feel like for the game that I'm on the play, I just want to like YOLO go for it and hope it works, and I'll play Veil for the games that I'm on the draw. It's just really hard for me to start going off with Veil quickly. This is a no. This is a yes. And I just have to make the decision for whether or not I go for it on turn 1. If I don't go for it on turn 1, Fatal Push is good against me and Wasteland is good against me. and so is discard, so I think I go for it on turn 1, which means throwing this back and just fully YOLOing it. So let's see if my opponent has Force of Will or Force of Negation. They unfortunately do. Yeah, this is brutal. Like, Force of Will, Force of Negation, Narset, Fatal Pushes, Wastelands, Orcish Bowmasters. This deck feels pretty geared to beat my deck. Clearly, they've metagamed against me. For sure. Oh, that's not the best for me either. It currently doesn't do anything bad to me, but it certainly will in the future. The chip damage is fine. I've still got 7 in hand. I'm just going to keep all of these in hand. I'm willing to just take 2 from Collector Oof. All right, no end of turn Orcish Bowmasters, which is nice. But I'm definitely scared. I'm going to play out a do-nothing artifact here and just call it a turn. Oh, we're getting end of turn movement. Okay. That's mostly just scary as increased pressure on me. I might have to just play out a Shield Sphere to start absorbing some points of damage and just make myself worse against a lot of things going on over there. Okay. I think I am not going to play Shield Sphere. I think this game is just fully like, do I draw a Glimpse next turn, and does my opponent have no answer to it? And I think if I draw the Glimpse, I just want to have the highest possible chance of actually winning the game. And I don't have 2 mana for a Chatterstorm here. I am comfortable conceding the game at this point. That was brutal. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. It's just the best place to keep your online deck lists, and it's also a great tool if you're a competitive tournament player. What I'm showcasing here is its Compare feature. You can take 2 deck lists, plug in links to both of them, and then see which cards are unique to deck list A, which cards are unique to deck list B, and which cards are shared with both of them. And you can do this both with the main deck and the sideboard. If you are looking to fine-tune a deck list, this is a great way to do that. All right, round 3. We have a hand that probably attempts to turn 1 Chatterstorm, which is really cool. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess they can take either the Glimpse or the Chatterstorm and not both, so I guess that's good for me. This probably just pivots into make a bunch of Squirrels and pray that my opponent does not have Plague Engineer in their deck. Ooh. Well, don't mind if I do. I wonder if that was a mistake and I was supposed to do that off of Elvish Spirit Guide, actually, now that I've thought about this for more than 1 second. Fuck! No! Well, obviously that sucks for me. I can play 2 creatures, which reduces this thing's cost by 2, which is not going to be enough. That's just my turn. I'm not going to just play out a Naked Memnite here. But that sucks. I had a very good hand, and my opponent drowned Catacombs. My opponent interacted with me twice on the first turn cycle. I mean, yes. Then Memnite. Then Walker Bro. And we will make a modest Chatterstorm. We have 5 power in play. That's not bad. It's not insane either. Oh, am I just dead? Am I dead somehow? I'm not dead. This is annoying, but this enters with 2 +1/+1 counters on it for each creature that convoked it. So that's an 18/18 on turn 3. I'm pretty happy with that. I don't know that we can die to any nonsense immediately this turn. My opponent's probably playing like Divining Witch as their way to win the game. Alright, and we just went faster than them. So I've got Veil of Summers, Thruns, and to a lesser extent Endurance that I probably want to be thinking about. I think I want to go down some Once Upon a Times for Veil of Summers. I don't know if I want to sideboard this other stuff. Like, at the end of the day, these are significantly easier to cast think I'm not going to board in the additional uncounterable thing. Cast 4 creatures. This thing costs 2 mana. I only have 1 mana. I think this is a mulligan. This is a keep. I think I pitch this, and we'll see where this goes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and cast a Lotus Petal here. I think I want to do this so my stuff is uncounterable. And then we'll go ahead and try to glimpse off. Oh, here we go. In no capacity am I, like, fully expecting to combo off this turn. Like, it might happen, and I'll be happy if it does occur. But I think it's more likely that I set myself up to combo off the following turn. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There we go. Okay. Yeah, we made it an 18-18 on turn 1. And I think we'll be calling it a turn there. You may absolutely end of turn brainstorm. That's good enough for a concession. GG. Okay, I have kind of too much mana here. I can Once Upon a Time for something, but even if I find a good hit, I don't think this is enough to just go off easily. So I'm going to go ahead and ship this one. How is this if I put back Once Upon a Time? Probably reasonable. Probably not insane, but reasonable. My opponent is playing a Yorion deck of some kind. Maybe we'll find out what they're playing. Gaea's Cradle or Thrasta. Probably pick up Cradle here. Just go Memnite, Ornithopter, Chatterstorm, and be prepared to do something cool off a top deck. Yeah. So we play both 0-drops and make some squirrels. I have some great top decks available to me. We're hoping to see basic planes rather than blue nonsense right now, because blue nonsense means like my opponent is more likely to have something like a sweeper that can beat me. All right. But putting 5 power in play on turn 1 is perfectly reasonable, right? I am going to just play this out as a critter that has 2 power. 5 for the first attack, 7 for the second attack, 7 for the third attack. Hopefully that's good enough. Plague Engineer would absolutely be a beating. Alright, Tropical Island. Delighted Halfling makes its first appearance on the channel. Sure. I'm fully willing to just throw a token to make a better attack here. Yep. When it goes to 9. And I'll just cast another Spirit Guide. We're looking to rumble. My opponent could have something like the One Ring to buy them some time. A Plague Engineer could be a beating. A Minskin Boo would be a little slow, but probably beats me. Alright, there is the Minskin Boo. So that probably has to become a defensive thing. I'm going to cast this. Ancient Imperiosaur will go to my hand. So how many times do I just convoke this? All of it? When it has 5 cards, it would need to be Force of Will. They probably aren't playing Days. Far outside of Minskin Boo range. Yeah, I think I just do this. Alright, I have a 2020 Trampoline creature that should be very hard to deal with by legacy removal standards. Yeah, you may shoot one of my creatures to draw some cards. Toxic Deluge doesn't get you out of this. You don't have the mana for something like Supreme Verdict, nor would you probably be playing it in your Delighted Halfling deck. Yeah, Uro is not saving you. We're now out of the range of something like Swords to Plowshares happening. This isn't a legend. Ward is going to stop that from happening. Imperiosaur, OP. GG's. Black, blue, green, red, white. Okay, so 5 color Dodge Blood Moon deck. Got it. So I am less excited about Thrasta here, specifically because my opponent just showed me Caracas. But I don't know how much I should freak out about Caracas because like they are a larger than normal Yorion deck. think I'm going to go down some Once Upon a Times, play Veil of Summer. Maybe I keep one of these. I don't like the more of those I cut, the worse they are, because I'm less likely to have it in my opener, though. So maybe once I cut one, I go for all of them, and I just board in. Maybe I do this to my win conditions. This doesn't actually do anything. Despite having a reasonable mix of lands and spells. How is this if I throw back a Gaia's Cradle? Not good. I'm thinking about like Chatterstorm, use the following turn to do something like Turtimber Symbiosis for a threat. I think that actually makes this hand not good, but playable. But I maybe don't kind of go for it immediately. Storm's going to be very good against my hand. What do you got? Abundant Growth is fine. Lotus Petal, Allosaurus Shepherd, Phyrexian Walker, Gaia's Cradle, Chatterstorm. Let me just double check that. Lotus Petal, 1 creature, 2 creature, Gaia's Cradle, Chatterstorm. Yeah, okay. Petal. Shepherd, Walker, Cradle, 2 mana, Squirrels! But like last game, we've made 5 power on turn 1. I have a gajillion mana for next turn, and can cast Turtimber Symbiosis uncounterably. Hey now. Hey now. Come on. That's rude, and you know it. My attacks aren't good anymore. I should probably just do this one this turn. Can I do both somehow? 5 mana, 10 mana, free floating. Yeah. Keep the untapped Gaia's Cradle. Cast this for 4. Ooh, yeah. Put a Thrasta into play. And then Convoke this. We are fine attacking with both of our creatures here. Is this deck, like, actually reasonable? Because it feels like we've done some very silly things here. This is gas. 14 power puts us outside of range of Toxic Deluge. Swords to Plowshares will gain me 14 life. Yeah, we'll just keep crashing in. Send them. Oh yes, trade with my Squirrel token. Opponent's down to 4. I think I just play my Memnite legit as a 1/1 creature in case Thrasta gets removed. But like, this has trample, so I think I'm in pretty good shape. Another Swords to Plowshares. What is this? Lifelink? What an odd counter to my deck. I can't limp over the finish line here. Oh, that's frustrating. I have a lot of very good top decks at this stage, but like, my opponent can now have time to kind of turtle up and build some defenses, dig through some cards, which will make my kill a little bit harder. And we'll just kind of see what they do here. They are attacking with their 2/3 creature just to gain some life. I am fine blocking. Alright, so now they're going to throw their hamster at presumably one of my creatures to make my Gaia's Cradle worse. Did not have losing to Denric Pious Apprentice on my bingo card for today. Alright, that's fine. Sure. That is a little bit of a problem. The Force of Will they just put in their hand is horrifying as well. So if I play Shield Sphere, I can have 4 or 5 mana, which is not this. I think I'm going to hold this in hand for now. If I need to use it as a land, paying the 3 life for it is probably not that big of a deal. I mean, I'm going to try. Okay, they've got a Swords to Plowshares for one of them. Tick down Minsk and Boo's loyalty. I didn't really expect that to work. Prismatic Ending. Yeah, I think I'm probably at the point where I've lost this game now. Like, my opponent gains 2 life a turn cycle, plus increases their amount of damage by 3 and or draws 4 or more cards. Yorian's coming as well. I think at this point, this is a land, because I've just lost so much ground for my Gaea's Cradle. Did not expect to lose this game after how good my start was. But here we are. Like, I'm taking 9 this turn. Or, what? Rather, I'm taking 7, but it's a 9-point life swing because my opponent gains 2 in this. And now they can reset their Narset and draw 2 cards with Abundant Growth. I'm going to take 1 more draw step, and I think if my draw step isn't good, I'm just going to concede. Like, the game's not over, but that is a good draw. My opponent has a Force of Will, though. I don't think I'm there yet. I'm no longer willing to just concede. My biggest issue here is that, like, this isn't just lethal in one swing. So this needs to become my bait spell. I don't really know how that is supposed to happen. Sure, that Phyrexian Walker being in my hand might actually just be good for me. Leyline Binding. I don't think I beat Leyline Binding plus Force of Will. That does have Flash. Like, the blue control deck is at the point where they're discarding cards. Yeah, I am willing to throw in the towel now. We will get to try again. I think I run back things more or less like they are now. I think I'm happy with the boarding configuration. This does not have enough mana to function. So this is a mulligan. Spirit Guide Lotus Petal. Spirit Guide Lotus Petal. Awkward. No, this way. Lotus Petal, Allosaurus, Shepherd, Glimpse, wait. All I need is 1 0-cost creature for this hand to just be insane. I wonder if I keep this and just pass my first turn. Alternatively, I can Lotus Petal, Glimpse, Elva Spirit Guide, Shepherd. That feels awkward. I think I keep this and just literally pass my first turn. Or if I'm not expecting Wasteland, I don't think I am in my opponent's 5-color mana base, I can just play Cradle and pass. Let's do that. And then I can open myself up to drawing a second Cradle in my Glimpse chain next turn. Ponder's fine. The only spell that I am probably going to play counterably all game is Lotus Petal. If kind of have things my way, Thrun is not what I want here. I'm going to pass the turn again. Like, I know what I am playing towards. I get another draw. It's the following turn cycle that's scary because that's when my opponent can play Narset. And my hand falls apart if they have Narset. That's awkward. So I've missed on 0-drop creatures 2 draws in a row. If I pass the turn, Narset wins my opponent the game. So we probably have to go for it this turn. So I'm exposed to counterspells here in a way that I really don't like. Go ahead and cast a Lotus Petal. Cast another Glimpse. Don't fucking do it. God damn it. Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. Why wouldn't that be fine? Okay. So my Gaia's Cradle is now absolutely trash. Yeah. Uh-huh. So this it's gonna be hard to combo off. Yeah, I know. Okay. So like I can cast another Glimpse, that doesn't get me anywhere. Bowmasters hurt a lot. So now I'm just further away from casting the Thrun than I otherwise would be. I think I needed to play this deck a week earlier before Orcish Bowmasters was on Magic Online. To tell you the truth. Okay. At least it's not... I don't know, maybe Narset's good for me at this point. Anna Swords, sure. It just has a 5/5 orc casually in play. Fuck. Okay. Glimpse. Shepherd. Drew something not good. Yeah, like I can do some minor things here, but I'm just dead to Orcish Bowmasters and Narset. That's rough. Okay, final round here. I don't have any gas in this hand. I only have mana and 0 drops. Is this a keep? I think it is. It's not one that probably goes off on turn 1, though. I think the Glimpse is a lot to ask for here. I'm gonna go ahead and put that back. We're going to start with Once Upon a Time. I kind of want to find a Gaea's Cradle. Okay, that's a Gaea's Cradle. I think I just make some Squirrels and then intend on Thrasta-ing in the not too distant future. So, Petal, Forest, Squirrels! So I'm not to Thrasta yet, but I am very much on the right track to going towards Thrasta. Could be playing against Delver, could be playing against Show and Tell, could be playing against a Bant or similar control deck list. We don't really know yet. So if I cast Allosaurus Shepherd, I have 4 mana off Gaea's Cradle. And Thrasta costs a little bit less. So it's mostly a question of, like, do I play Allosaurus Shepherd now? Because it literally does 1 more point of damage to my opponent each turn cycle, or do I save it for Thrasta? I always play this land this turn. I think I'm going to wait. Like, I'd kind of like to play Allosaurus Shepherd the same turn as Thrasta, if possible. Alright, we're chilling. I'm 1 short of Thrasta. Right, cast Allosaurus Shepherd, Gaea's Cradle, taps for 4. 5, 6 mana, this would cost 7. So far I have missed 1 point of damage for Allosaurus Shepherd. Brainstorm's fine. I guess the argument for playing out Allosaurus Shepherd the previous turn is that, like, Gaea's Cradle activate is a thing that I could be doing. But I really want Thrasta. Maybe that's greedy. I just had so many hits for Thrasta to actually just happen, though. Alright, that's a punishing draw. For not playing out the Gaea's Cradle to play around Wasteland, because now it's looking like my opponent isn't Delver. It looks like they're Show and Tell. Alright, opponent's at 10. I'll go ahead and drop this. I'm also just going to cast a Spirit Guide here. And this is too much mana, right? Yeah. Still way too much mana. In theory, I've got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 damage next turn. Alright. We do have Show and Tell vibes going on. I'll put a Thrasta into play. That's pretty good. I am not going to put something into play. I'm not going to put something into play. That's 14 power worth of lifelink, which is not great for me. So they took City of Traders as their land. Force Omniscience, Show and Tell. Attracts us, so no Eureka. Okay, so they've got a counterspell back up, but that only means so much here. Show and Tell into Omniscience the following turn is kind of tough for me. So my attack doesn't make a ton of sense. But I can make a giant creature that hopefully beats my opponent. Giant creature. And we'll see if I can swing out the following turn to kill my opponent. Alright, what are we doing? So it's probably Show and Tell for Omniscience. Omniscience Atraxa. And we'll see if they can find an Emrakul. Because if they find an Emrakul, they just lethal me in the air. Little man does not have reach. That's 14 in the air. My opponent is basically dead on board, but they get a whole lot of looks to find an Emrakul to kill me. Or some other way to survive. Sure. Opponent only has 19 cards in hand, folks. Alright, yeah, they found the Emrakul. That's unfortunate. We weren't too far off away from just killing there. Feels like a lot of times this is going to be a race. Playing out the Allosaurus Shepherd earlier doesn't change things, but playing out the Gaea's Cradle earlier might have. Yeah, that game was probably winnable on my end. I'm not sure that I'm going to sideboard. Like, these are reasonable, but I think I'm just trying to go under my opponent and holding up extra mana. Like, waiting the time to do that is not great. I think I keep this and try to use Once Upon a Time to find 1 mana in any capacity and just Chatterstorm and hope that that races what my opponent is doing. All right, let's find a mana. That is not a mana this turn. Forest is a mana for next turn. That's fine, but not ideal. Let's go ahead and play out a Lair of the Hydra and pass. And we'll see where this game goes. I really wanted to make the Squirrels on turn 1 for my best chance of just actively stealing this game before my opponent could assemble Show and Tell plus their other nonsense. Turn 2 is slow. All right. Well, here we go. We'll now cast 3 Ornithopters and end it with a small-ish Chatterstorm. My Lair of the Hydra will look very good if I draw a Gaea's Cradle, and I can just sink a ton of mana into it, but, like, I very much need help here. Sure. Okay, Petals are scary. If they Show and Tell right now, I'm in trouble. Yeah, they've got a turn 2. I don't have anything to put in. They have a Grizzlebrand. That's technically beatable, but very tough to beat. I just have to pass the turn here. And I expect my opponent can just, like, Show and Tell again on this turn. And then it's mostly a question of, like, do I block with Ornithopters to buy time? I think I do. Like, it makes the Lair of the Hydra worse if I do something like that, but it gives me more turns before I'm actively dying. Okay. This probably kills me. Okay, so my opponent has put in a gajillion permanents. They can Show and Tell again immediately for Omniscience Atraxa. And at this point, I think I see the writing on the wall. I'm not going to beat this, and I'm gonna just kind of value both of our times here and give them the old concession. GG's. So that's the end of the league. The record on the scoreboard here is 2-3, but let's keep in mind there that one of those was essentially a bye because my opponent did not show up to play actual games of Magic. That said, we did some really powerful things very quickly. This deck feels a little bit like a glass cannon in that a lot of things can disrupt it, but when you don't disrupt it, I think you need to disrupt it twice to kind of beat it. If you don't do that, the things that it's doing are legitimately scary, and it has ways to, like, play around counterspells and such. But I think with the format shifting to a format where black is becoming more common, so things like Orcish Bowmasters and Plague Engineer, as well as the things that might come with them, like Narset, are just going to be good against this deck. This is maybe not a deck that I would take super seriously as a competitive force. However, like, I think what we have here is perfectly reasonable and actively good for a fun night at FNM or a one-time league presence or something like that. I don't know that I have any major thoughts on how to improve the deck list. It kind of feels to me like I want just a few more 0-drop creatures to round things out, but everything that I can cut in here is kind of costly. Like, I think Ancient Imperiosaur and Chatterstorm are the better things in the deck. Like, maybe you go down 1 Thrasta for 1 more 0-drop or something like that. Like, vomiting a handful of 0-drops and just, like, making 5 or 6 Squirrels on turn 1 is, like, very good if you just followed up with Gaea's Cradle into something else. And, like, if you do that, your Once Upon a Times actually can be dig spells. Your Allosaurus Shepherds actually can be win conditions as you turn them into 5/5s. There might be some room to mess around with this a little bit and turn it into something better. And remember, as always, if you end up wanting to buy any of these cards or others, remember promo code ThrabenU will save you 5% over at Cool Stuff Inc. And folks, I hope you have a great rest of the day. If you have any thoughts about this, throw them down in the comments below. See ya!